Welcome to Fulfilling This Belly Sting. A show dedicated to aligning a journey to a better mental health using the understandings of the ancient Norse. Join us each weekday morning at 7 a.m. Alaska time. Someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them.
God Morgan, and happy Thursday to you. Today we talk about the god Thor and his strength. That was one of his major attributes. And so today we're going to incorporate that understanding and we're going to internalize that a little bit for our mental strength as well as our physical strength. So we'll cover both of those. Today I want to say thank you to all of you who have liked, followed, subscribed, done all the super secret handshakes with all the different platforms, and tell you how much I appreciate you. It is through you that we're able to distribute this message far and wide. As always, to help support that, if you do happen to have any extra coin, by all means, drop those in our tip jar. Help us to promote a message out to the world that love, harmony, and peace are the ways forward. They are certainly the tools at which we can evolve to our next level. I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and yes, family at New Reality TV. newrealitytv.com is a new streaming channel with a plethora of perspectives that helps us to understand who we are and where we fit in the world. Hopefully, there'll be something there that resonates with you and can help you to obtain or maintain your mental strength and your mental health. So, be sure to check them out, newrealitytv.com. For those of you who might be interested in more about me, my teachings, my shows, and certainly a methodology at which we can begin a dialogue through a coaching service, check out my website, norsewhispers.com. Today we're talking about Thor. We're talking about the mental. We're going to take over his physical strength and talk about mental strength. What does mental strength mean? Well, mental strength is essentially the ability to repel, deny, the influential energies that would change us from the directions that we have chosen. So if we want to go forward in a particular path, whatever path that may be, by being influenced, by receiving this influential energy that's constantly surrounding us and changing our trajectory to something that we don't want. So being able to manage that is first, we need to recognize influential energy for what it is. Influential energy is just that. It's there to influence us. What does influential energy look like? Well, you have to remember that our brain only accepts data anything, for processing, through our sensory input. Okay, so not only are we going to talk about the 5 sensory inputs that we've learned about since we were in primary school, but we're also going to include a spiritual influence as well. Because even if we don't recognize it, even if we choose to try to fool ourselves into thinking that we're ignoring it, it's affecting us nonetheless. Our spiritual influential energy is just as powerful and can be just as convincing as our physical sensory input. This is, many people refer to when spiritual energy enters into us and we recognize it as spiritual energy. Many people will say, well, I heard the call. I heard the calling, and this is where my destiny lies. And that's true. It's a calling, okay? But we get this all the time. It's not a one-time thing. It's not, I remember in personal revelation time here, when I shifted my focus from, originally I had gone to college to get certified, to get all the certifications for technical mumbo jumbo. And I had gone to school to do that, and I had picked up an associate's degree, and one of my instructors with whom I developed a relationship with, one of my instructors invited me to teach his class, and I was thrilled. And so I did. Several nights a week then, I took over his class and taught the subjects, electric theory and real basic computer stuff, right? It was during that time that I would be kind of smitten with this idea of teaching. And I would go, wow, that's really exciting. And I really want to do that. I want to learn more about that. And so when I decided to shift my education from a more of a technical certification kind of college to a full-blown college where I would attend Wayland Baptist University, I really shifted my focus from the technical mumbo-jumbo to the education, adult education and occupational education and those types of things. And so that's where I would shift my gear. Now, of course, going to a Wayland Baptist University, some of those studies came into play. Now, it was during that time that I would become ordained by the Presbyterian Church to teach that message as well. And it resonated very strong with me originally. But in my typical fashion, I would then begin to dissect the doctrine, and I would kind of find where my beliefs were not exactly lined up. And the more I studied, of course, the more I drew questions, the more, of course, there were no answers, and or more answers that really resonated with me. Now, having said that, I can tell you that a belief is something that really makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, if there's just too many open-ended questions and people are providing answers that just maybe dances around the answer, or it just doesn't provide anything concrete, and it's not making sense in the mind, then we're kind of, that should be the very first red flag. Obviously, as we begin to investigate it and we begin to learn more about it, and we begin to gain that intellect from whatever sources that we're pulling from, we're going to involve the heart. Now, the heart is very easy. We have to feel it. There has to be a passion for it. There has to be an understanding that, oh yeah, this works, whatever this happens to be for you. Now, remember, one of the things that I've certainly come to understand along my spiritual journey is that spirituality is really big enough for all of these beliefs. So if you choose to follow, as an example in my life, you choose the Baptist or the Presbyterian path, There's going against everything there is to know. You're seeing the world, you're seeing that part of our existence from your perspective. It's just the way you, not wrong, not more right, simply different. All right? And so when we talk about influences in our lives, for good reason, there's a benefit. Other influences will try to sway us from those decisions that we've made in our lives. Our annual or our new will make resolutions, and resolutions, the new year, we're often running on our resolutions. Within 2 weeks or so, we're going to start finding reasons to not believe, not want it, not need it. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to start overscheduling stuff, right? So as an example, if we were to set a resolution, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to walk around the track, and I'm going to get in shape, physical healthy and physical shape. And then by mid-December, all of a sudden you don't have time in your everyday life to make it to the gym. You're already starting to find excuses and reasons why that just doesn't fit into my schedule. This is the strength of a decision. This is the strength of mind, is that we're beginning to allow other influences to kind of push that out. It happens, and it happens very frequently. It happens with quite a bit of what we have. Now, I've mentioned before when we talk about the well of the self, for those of you who might be new to the show, the well of the self is really defined by my ancestors as being the kind of one of those visions or demonstrations that allows us to use our intrinsic values, our virtues, what makes us us, what makes us think, feel, and certainly know what we do. Well, that's all done through the heart, not through the brain. It's the heart. And the way it does that, and we've mentioned before, is that when we're taking in sensory input, whether it be physical sensory input or whether it be spiritual input, that energy that is received or converted is going to be dipped through this well of the self. At the bottom of this well is our virtues, is the beautiful rocks that have been laid there in a beautiful pattern of our unique abilities or our unique understandings. These rocks represent really what we are, what our decision core pieces are. These rocks have been placed by many others. Anyone with whom we've given some level of authority is open to put rocks in our well. And these rocks, some of which can be very clear and clean, and when they're dropped in the well, they simply augment what's there. And they fit right into the slot, and it's beautiful. And when we look upon it from the top, looking down into the well of the self, we see this beautiful pattern. It's kind of laid out, and it's very clean, and we can see it very clearly. Others may come into our well that are very dirty. They're very, and what I mean by dirty is that they're not very clear. They're kind of they're mixed with maybe not even the highest level of authority, or maybe we just don't trust the source, right? So yeah, but we've allowed the rock to come into our value system, and as a dirty rock, it's going to come into this well, and it's going to murky everything up. Now, what it also has the potential of doing is, as it lands at the bottom of the well, it's going to cover some of our other values. So it masks their influence on our decisions. Now, as I mentioned, as we process, whether it be physical sensory input energy or whether it be spiritual energy, and it comes through our emotional filters. Remember, those are first. Those are the mood. And then it's going to drop down into this well of the self. When it gets to the well of the self, it's going to pass all the way through the water to the rocks. And then the rocks are going to assemble it in such a way to represent it using biochemistry of the body. Now, this is where your body is going to release certain hormones in certain dosages into the bloodstream. Those hormones are then going to race up through the whole bloodstream all the way up to the brain, where the brain then recognizes that biochemistry as a particular thing. It's going to begin to convert it back into energy. But the biochemistry is a very unique, very isolated process that happens only in our physical form. In our spiritual form, that doesn't happen because our spiritual form has no way of creating this biochemistry. So it's only through the physical body that we're getting a signal down into the well of the self, and the well of the self is then releasing biochemistry in here that the brain recognizes, that pattern, that composition, as an emotion. All right? So it attaches emotion to this thing, to this event, to this experience that we're processing. Now, this happens trillions of times per second. Think of your life as a series of snapshots. Very much like movies, we have frames. Well, same thing. And each frame is what we refer to as a present. It is a moment, a snapshot in time, a moment, a present. And that present experience then is processed through our mental and heart functionality back into ultimately becoming stored in our memories. All of these things are very, very important. But there's a couple of things that we need to recognize. Firstly and foremost, everything that comes in, whether it be physical sensory input or our spiritual input, all of them are affected by this thing called imagination. Imagination is your memories translated in such a way that are injected into this experience, right? So the imagination may contort our energy conversion right out of the gate. And then, of course, our mood followed very quickly. Our mood then alters it a little bit before it drops into the well of the self. So there's a couple of different things that are going to occur to this energy as it's coming into the body. So it's super important that we understand that those influences are happening every minute of every day. What we do with them, or more importantly, what we allow them to do to our perspective of reality, is completely up to us. Now, we're going to take a real quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about how you can identify these influences, how they're going to try to change you, more importantly, how you can take an active role in managing what influences take you. Where do they take you? And how you can actively manage them. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
In the air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
newrealitytv.com.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for taking that quick break with us. And yes, Doofy, you should love our stream. You should very much like, follow, and subscribe to all of our different, certainly our audio and our video platforms, including on newrealitytv.com. You won't be disappointed. Today we're talking about the strength of Thor, and we're talking about kind of moving strength. We know from the legends and the lore of Thor's strength. So what we're doing is now we're going to take that understanding of Thor and his strength, and we're going to take it from the physical strength, and we're going to move it over to the mental strength, because mental strength is just as important as physical strength. We've talked about this morning, we've talked about influences and influential energy all around us. Now, some are very obvious. Advertising, marketing, all the commercials you see on TV and radio, all of those are essentially playing on influential energies to try to change our path. In their case, they're trying to get us to buy a product. And completely understandable. They're trying to make their client or themselves kind of change their financial status, right? So they're trying to gain some profit. All of this is happening all the time, particularly when we're online. All right. So this is the ads, all of that stuff all fits into a visual or audio influential energy that we're taking into our mind. Now, at the same time, remember, each of these sensory inputs that we're receiving are getting us a little touch of imagination that are going to come up from our memories, and they're going to inject themselves into this energy that is created by all of our sensory input, whether it be the physical one or the spiritual one. All of it's going to create a level of energy. Now, so how do we actively manage this process? How do we take control of how this influential energy is going to change us? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to know what we're dealing with here. And what I mean by that is you have to know who you are. What are your values? What are your virtues? Right? What do you believe? And why do you believe it? If we were to give you the opportunity to look into your well of yourself, what would you see there? What have people told you throughout the millennial or however long you've been alive? What have people taught you? Now, you got to remember your level of authority. Maybe you had parents who were very strict, very authoritarian, and they placed a lot of values in your well. Some of these may have served them very well. Some of them may not fit your life at all. I'm always reminded of a story where we find a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother who, when she prepared a roast for a large feast, she would always cut the ends off. And so this recipe handed down generation through generation through generation, till finally a young a new member of the family married in, and a new spouse is sitting there, and their spouse says, okay, well, we're going to make roast tonight. You got to cut the ends off. And the woman says, why? Why am I cutting the ends off of this roast? I'm losing, some of the meat here. And so he said, nope, that's the way my great-great-grandparents always did it. That's the way, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so the spouse says, all right, I got to check this out. And so she went and visited with her great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. And great-great-grandmother said, well, that's just silly. Why would you waste the meat? I used to cut the ends off because that's what fit in my pan. So if I was cooking it, I had to cut the ends off to make the meat fit into the pan. And all of a sudden, the doors kind of opened. A different understanding, a different perspective. Did it work for everyone? No. We have bigger pans now. Maybe we have bigger ovens. Who knew, right? So what we find is that there are some of these values that may be handed to us by our ancestors that were very regionalized, very localized, and they may not apply kind of across the board. They work in a very unique subset of situations. Now, these are where we start. So we're looking at our values the way they are today, and we need to determine how many of those are still applicable today. How many still work? How many, are still, do we have a bigger oven, right? So when we're thinking about taking on values and absorbing these values from other people, regardless of the level of authority, we should probably reevaluate them from time to time. Figure out, wait, the last oven I bought was a lot bigger, and I got this bigger pan. Maybe I could fit the whole roast in there, and I don't need to cut off the ends to make it fit. Very much the same way, but you have to know where you are today. And this is really where we've talked throughout our show about the value of meditation. Meditation really gives us that opportunity to look intrinsically and to see where we are today. Once we've established kind of where we are today, then we can establish what everybody's trying to tell us. What are all these influential energies coming into us, and does it match what I've already got in my value pool? If it doesn't, is it something I want to adopt, or is it something that's trying to convert what I already got to something else? And that's a very unique process. Remember, you had very unique authority figures providing your value system, right? So your value system is built by a series of individuals, both from the physical realm and in the spiritual realm. And they're going to be different. Even identical twins. And I can speak authoritatively here because my twins are almost 30 now. And I can say with authority that even they have very different values. Why? Not because they were raised in different environments. We had them at home the whole time. Until one went in the military and one went in the civilian market. And those experiences created different values. The one who was in the military was given values of his military service by his instructors, by those within the military who provided him with that structure and that value system that he wanted to have for himself. The other one couldn't go in the military, has lung issues, so was prohibited from the military. But he too then had authority figures in his life outside of his mother and myself that created some level of value. So just because we're identical, just because we're triplets or quads, it very low on the totem pole, because you are a very unique individual. You've had different experiences, you've created different chemistry, and that's created a different thought process. Now, can you still communicate? Absolutely. Don't kid yourself. The twin speak, I think is what they call it, is absolutely real. But what you have to understand is it's not the way we think. We think using our values. Why? Because our heart is part of everything we think. Emotions and emotional states dictate how the energy is created, how it's formed, how it's used, how it's emitted. Very critical core to what we think. So, again, our steps today, when we think about Thor, I want you to think about, firstly, baselining yourself, figuring out what are your values today. What do they look like? Maybe you write them down. What are my values? How do I feel? What do I think about X? Right? Once you can get our values, where we're at today, then we can evaluate each piece that comes into our lives for whatever reason. Hey, there's a stray dog. What do I want to do about it? Well, my value system says love all life. Okay? My belief in everybody should be given a second chance all plays into this scenario where we find ourselves adopting this stray dog. Okay? So all of these pieces all kind of fit together. And so understanding where you are and then understanding the influences in your life. These are two critical cornerstones for your mental health. This is what's going to provide you with your ability to actively manage your mental health. Again, remembering that all of our thoughts are emotion-led. So they all have an emotional part that is going to create energy within ourselves that may or may not do other things. Now, we'll talk about those in another show, but just know that when this biochemistry re-arrives at the brain, there's a potential that it can overwhelm us, that it can run amok, that it can cause stress and stress. All right. So those kinds of things are just understand that those are there. Okay. And they will happen. All right. So those are our lessons today as we walk away and we think about Thor today. I want you to think, and if you, for you ladies, need to put Chris Hemsworth's face on Thor, by all means, feel free to do so. But the key is to understand who we are and where we are so that we can better actively manage those influences coming in and trying to change us. All right. So I encourage you to embrace this idea of Thor, not because you need to believe in Thor, but more importantly about Thor's strength, mental strength today. We're going to think about where we are and what's influencing us, what's trying to change us. And from there, we can begin to reestablish our mental health. All right? So I hope that I pray that you just really embrace the ideas behind today, Thor's Day, and obtaining that mental strength, that mental fortitude that can withstand emotional influences that may try to alter our trajectory. Remember, you're ultimately, you're the man or woman who can make all these, who can decide what and how we're going to feel, what and how we're going to think. You get to make that decision. So use that power. You have it, use it. All right, my friends, enjoy Thor's Day, and we will see you again tomorrow when we will talk about Freya, and of course, her absolute management and manipulation, if you will, of the energies of the universe to manifest that interpretation of reality that we're truly looking for in this lifetime. All right? So we will see you tomorrow. Until then, love and light.
Watching for Felina's Belly Snake, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska Wolf Hefnar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.